Hello and welcome to Console Shock, Retro and Modern Gaming Chat with me, Trev, and as always, Stu. How's it going, Stu?
Yeah, it's going really well, Trev. Yeah, just looking forward to doing the podcast and exciting week of football and things like that, really.
That's good to hear. Good to hear that you're excited about doing a bloody podcast. It's not that exciting. Is it really? Is that the highlight of your week?
It's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting.
Oh yeah, I'm excited as well. I'll get really excited about this. I'm sure everybody that listens to our show can feel that energy come through coming out of the microphone or coming out the speakers and hitting them in the face. Coming on their face sort of thing is the audio, I think, on this.
Yeah. But that's what people want to
That's what they want, isn't it? Yeah, indeed. And it's not just me and you, Stu.
No,
turns
we
out
got the OG. We got the OG.
We do have one of the Console Shock Primes.
Original gangsters.
Maybe even Console Shock Prime himself. It's been a while since he's been on, but by coincidence, we were recording our other show, which is Star Trek based. I've mentioned it on the odd occasion on this show before, but we are joined once again by Al. How's it going, Al?
It's going well. Yeah, I just stuck around and just forgot to leave. So,
exactly, yeah. He's been in the background of all the other ones. He just doesn't say anything. And occasionally we say, you can talk now. So you're allowed this time.
Just trying to keep things civilized, you know.
Yes.
But no, I'm doing good. Thank you very much. How about yourself?
Which is difficult. It's difficult to keep this podcast civilized, but yeah, good. I think it's been you know what? It's been a while since you've been on. I think it might have been like a year or more.
Quite possibly. Yeah. That sounds about right. Yeah, I think we were doing I think it was for Christmas of last year. It was either Christmas or New Year's because we were talking about like favorite games and stuff.
Yeah, there was one that I know you were definitely on for. That might not have been the last one, and that was the emulators episode.
That's right. Yes.
I think you might have been on since then. Maybe the Game Boy mods episode. It was something like that. But even that one is like a year ago. So we've been doing other things. Like also the Star Trek show, we've kind of got going on lately. But yeah, in terms of Console Shock, it's been a while. So yeah, we're really, really happy to have you back on again. But what we're going to do, like lately, I would say, Stu, we've kind of morphed a little bit into how we do this show, haven't we? Not really through doing it, consciously doing this or saying we're going to do this now on Console Shock, but I think we've become less sort of focused on getting a guest on. And perhaps one after that would have been us talking about a particular console, because we've probably covered most of them now. When you get into triple figures like we have in terms of how many shows we've done, but yeah, we've kind of become a little bit of a DF Direct style where you often have a bunch of topics you want to discuss, and I think that's what we're going to do today. And I think that's kind of working out fairly well for us, isn't it? The last few dozen or so shows.
It's good. I mean, it's quite funny because we sort of film these, and they're all very relevant sort of subjects, and then about a week's time it will get uploaded, and they're kind of like they're all sort of very much sort of news topics that we want to talk about, and then we'll update it a week later. So it's probably not the most sort of relevant sort of news, and there's no sort of breaking news here, but I think it works well, and it's just like that we would talk about anyway in the pub.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's kind of that's kind of what we've always tried to do with Console Shock, isn't it? To have that sort of banter about video games that you would have down the pub, because we go on the pub all the time.
I'm always in the pub.
You would have been there now, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm Mr. Pub.
Exactly. You a pub? You go to the pub, Al? In Canada?
Not so much. No, for me, it's more kind of pizza. There's a lot of pizza places, to the point we even have a pizza corner as well.
Oh, wow.
So where there's just a bunch of pizza places just on a street corner. It's great. Yeah.
Do you get 97 cents pizza? When I was in Vancouver, it was 97 cents pizzas everywhere.
I wish.
That was like, honestly, I'd have a few beers and then I'll be in Vancouver and I'll just get about 4 of these slices of pizza for about 97 cents each.
That is very cheap.
No,
absolutely brilliant.
Tell you what, though, where I'm in Nova Scotia in Halifax, and they have the highest concentration of pubs across all of Canada. So
Wow.
for students, this is a great place.
Yeah. Is there a poutine pizza?
Yeah, they also
that sounds rude. A poutine
does,
pizza.
Yeah. Show me your poutine pizza. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something you want to say
I'll
to
have
the
a
ladies
slice of
in
your
Canada.
poutine, please.
So they like a sauce called donair sauce, and that they have that with everything, including pizza. And it's very rare for somebody to not want to have that. And well, that would be me. I'm not so keen on it, but yeah, donair sauce is the big thing. But yeah, poutine is very popular here too.
Do you have donair sauce on your donair?
I
donair
don't
kebab?
know. Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's donair. It's not doner. It's not like a doner kebab. There is a difference to it. I just can't quite figure out what the difference is. But
do they call the director of Superman 1 Richard Donner in Canada?
This Richard Donner, eh? Yeah. But yeah, I feel like I have to be careful with what I say when I'm out and saying like, oh, I don't like doner, I don't like poutine. I feel like I'm just going to get beaten up with hockey sticks.
Yeah.
I'm not careful. So yeah.
Various Canadian stereotypes will be thrown at you, like healthcare and not be able to buy a gun and all those things, and you'll be like, stop it. That'd be fun. Well, it's good to know. I definitely need to go for a visit over to Canada at some point. But
yes,
yeah,
we'll do a live show when you're here.
We definitely should. we definitely should. But anyway, getting into the sort of things we were looking to talk about today. I mean, one thing that came out of nowhere, really. I didn't even see any kind of news about it until I just happened to jump on YouTube a couple of days ago. I think it might have been Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember or when it was announced. But yeah, the Steam Deck OLED. So obviously there was the original Steam Deck, which came out at the beginning of last year. I have an original Steam Deck. I still have it. Still really enjoy it. And to be honest, I wasn't really thinking I would see any kind of newer version of it for potentially 2 or 3 years plus. Although we're not too far from 2 years, I guess. But probably, for longer than it's been. And yeah, it's kind of dropped out of nowhere. And what do you think about it, Stu?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite impressed with it, and it's almost a good thing for me is that they've actually not, increased the sort of performance, so it's still the same performance as that you had, Trev, and the original one that I bought, but it's just got from what it sounds like, it's got a better battery, maybe more storage, and of course the OLED screen, which runs at sort of 90 hertz. So you can get increased sort of performance out of it. So from that point of view, I think it's an absolutely smashing upgrade, and it's not leaving people going, hold on, I've got the old Steam Deck. Oh, that's won't play anything now. It's going on to the new one. So there's loads of sort of positive things about it, and it's in the same size case. It's got smaller bezels now, so I'm quite excited about it.
Yeah, I think it's got a marginally larger screen because the OLED panel is a bit bigger. I think it's 7.4 inches instead of 7.
That's right, yeah.
Not crazy difference, but still, better than an improvement is an improvement. And I think you get a terabyte storage for the same cost that you got the 512 in the older model. And I think the RAM is a bit faster as well. There's some little, slightly boosted. Not so much the APU that's in there, the sort of the AMD APU that drives the graphics and obviously the main CPU. So there is a little bit of better performance, but literally, you can count the sort of frames that you'll get extra really on sort of maybe 2 hands, more likely 1 hand. So not crazy, but there is a slight nudge in performance. Al, is there anything were you interested in the original Steam Deck? Is this one that you think you might get with the newer version, or what are your thoughts?
I've always been more of a Switch kind of player, but so I've not really been that interested in the Steam Deck, but it's one of those things where it's always interesting to see what's happening over in that space. And with them switching to OLED, one of the things you typically get with that, aside from just better contrast, because blacks are truly black because there's no light coming from those pixels. Yeah. But you should also end up with better battery life as well, because you're not powering an entire backlight.
So you get that,
Yeah, and because there's no backlight, typically they tend to be a little bit lighter. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were. I'm sure it won't be much, but it'll be measurable at least. But battery life is going to be, I would imagine, a lot more efficient as a result, and that's always going to be a good thing. That's why a lot of them will move to OLED. Now that the prices for that kind of technology have started to become a little bit more affordable.
Yeah, it's funny because the PS Vita had an OLED screen, and that was in 2011 or 2012 for us.
I didn't realize.
Yes, the first one did, obviously a very early one, so
That
you
was
do
very
get
early, yeah.
yeah, and that was the default. There wasn't different versions of it, so it's amazing that it hasn't really become like a standard thing at this point. I guess the technology has just become, it's just that OLED technology has always stayed at a certain high price. Perhaps Sony, because they're kind of, they build the TVs and things like that, are able to sort of get, a better deal on getting us an OLED screen, which is why, that's what we got. But obviously the screen on the Vita looked amazing, and the Vita Lite that came out later, or the Slim Vita, you went to an LCD screen, so that was a bit of a downgrade. But yeah, the screen on that still looks amazing to this day, and like, a 12-year-old, 11-year-old handheld. And I think the Steam Deck's LCD screen is pretty poor. To be fair, it's quite a little bit washed out, just not very vibrant. You can use tools like Vibrant Deck that you can kind of basically overblow the sort of colors, and you can kind of simulate, a more colorful screen, but you're not really, it's not really, making it look like an OLED. And also, the bezel now, basically it almost seems like there isn't a bezel because the blacks are completely black and blend in with the actual bezel that is around the screen. So that's quite cool. And yeah, the battery life is a little bit better. I think you might be getting like an extra half hour or so, maybe a little bit more, which kind of pushes it into Switch battery territory. Although I've gotten pretty good, certainly with a lot of the games that I play on it, of using like different TDP profiles. So you can sort of dial down the amount of watts that it's consuming at a particular point in time or for a particular game. So, you're actually able to sort of save a bit of battery life that way. Although if you're trying to play like a brand new AAA game, like, Dead Space Remake or Returnal, you can't really do that at all. You've kind of got to have it at the 15 watts. And then you get like the hour and a half that you get from the battery. But yeah, that might be more like 2 hours now. You're absolutely hammering it with a brand new game that's just come out, a AAA game. So it's always good to have more battery in a handheld. But is there anything like Stu, you're not tempted to dive in and buy one?
Well, I mean, the big question is, everyone wants to know, Trev, are you going to pick one up?
No, I don't think so, because it kind of brings us a little bit to the other things.
I think that sort of answers sort of my question, because I was going to think, quite often I'll get a text from you, Trev. I'll go, I brought the new version of something. Do you want the old version of it? Like sort of EverDrive.
When
cartridges.
it comes to that, yeah.
So I'm expecting that text at some point that's saying, I bought the new OLED. Do you want the old Steam Deck? And sort of giving me a sort of an offer I can't refuse. But
CEX is like Stuart is the human CEX for me. But basically, I do get a better price from you than an actual CEX. So yeah,
So
I mean, there.
I mean, give me a shout if you are sort of thinking about sort of getting rid of it and maybe sort of upgrading. And I can't promise I would get it. Anyway, people don't want to know this, but but
they're loving this right now. Yeah, the people that are listening.
Exactly, but I don't think I'll get the sort of new OLED. But I'm in a position now where, I'm doing a lot more PC gaming, so I'm buying more games on Steam. So that was the real sort of barrier before when I originally got the Steam Deck. It was kind of like, well, hold on, I don't even got any games on Steam, and it was, well, I don't want to just spend hundreds of pounds on all these different games when they weren't in a sale. And I wasn't in that ecosystem. Now I'm more in that ecosystem, so I might go down that route.
That's interesting. Yeah. Oh, yeah. For me, I mean, I've been tempted. I mean, the main reason is I actually bought a Lenovo Legion Go, and I've sold my Rogali. I've been really
so
enjoying.
you got a Lenovo Legion Go.
I've got a Lenovo Legion Go. I really wanted that big screen. And
Yeah.
it is a really awesome big screen.
Mm.
And again, it's very similar to the Rogali. It's like a Windows handheld. So obviously, I kind of said before that I have kind of the Steam Deck is for kind of a streamlined sort of PC gaming experience of mostly my Steam library. And having a Windows handheld, it was the ROG Ally, it's now the Legion Go. Is basically what I can use for Windows games and Game Pass and things that just won't, or AAA games that just are too big for the Steam Deck. Like I saw that Dead Space Remake has just appeared on Game Pass, so I've downloaded that to play on the Legion. I mean, it can run on the Steam Deck, but for one, I've got to buy it. I can't get Game Pass on that.
Exactly, yeah.
Potentially stream it on xCloud, but I'd rather actually just have a local, way of playing it. So the Legion Go will allow me to do that, and it has the extra power that I can hopefully play it. It's not going to be PS5 quality, but 1280, 720, 30 frames a second lock, which is fine for that sort of third-person game. It'll be a lot. It'll be great to play that on. And I mean, I'm not sure how much we're going to go into sort of talking about that, but the Legion Go. But it's not the OLED. Had I not got, if there was no Legion Go, and I maybe just had my ROG Ally, and I hadn't just bought something like that, I might have been tempted to upgrade the Steam Deck to the OLED, but the performance isn't a huge difference. I mean, as much as I said that the screen isn't that great, I haven't really been. If it was a generational leap, then I probably would go for it. But we're probably not going to see that for another couple of years when they do eventually do a full-blown Steam Deck 2. And I hope they don't drop the OLED screen and have that as a premium thing that they keep at arm's length. Going forward, and it's a mid-gen refresh that they give you the OLED. I hope it becomes the standard. That remains to be seen. But Al, I mean, we touched a little bit upon the Windows handhelds. Like there's the Asus ROG Ally, there's the Lenovo Legion Go. Would they be of interest to you to play sort of Windows games on, maybe Game Pass and things like that?
Well, I think that once Stuart has inherited your old ones, and then they eventually hit retro status, then yes, I'll probably pick one from Stuart.
It'll be a circle of life.
That's it. Once they consider retro handhelds, they'll take pride of place next to my Game Boy collection. And,
Al, I've got a Game Gear I can sell you.
Oh, okay. Now we'll talk after the show.
Yeah.
Definitely
not an OLED screen on that. You probably could. I'm sure there's a mod for it.
Oh, there are, yeah. And those you kind of need to mod because posting on those things makes some games unplayable.
Yeah.
It's a massive upgrade. But I mean, that's a whole other topic entirely. But,
yes.
I to be honest, most of my gaming time is kind of Minecraft at the moment. And I've not really been finding that much time for other things. So it would just be another... And I'm trying to kind of get back into some older stuff like my PlayStation 3, which
the triple.
That's right. So I feel like trying to just get another one of these is just going to add to the noise, and it's just not going to get played through right now. But by the time it hits retro status, then I'll probably be ready to jump in.
How's the triple going then? What games have you been playing on that? Have you been diving in there?
I've been revisiting some old favorites like Grand Theft Auto 5. I've been trying out some games like the Star Trek 2009 game that they had just to see how terrible that was.
Oh, yeah.
I managed to pick that up super cheap, and I was just curious as to how it is.
It's not bad.
Not bad. It's not as glitchy as I've seen in various videos, but yeah, nothing to write home about. But yeah, I never had a PlayStation 3. I'd always gone with Xbox just because that's what friends were on. And there's a lot of games that I used to have on other consoles like my Xbox One back when I had that. And so now I'm just playing the PlayStation 3 versions of those games because I don't have that console anymore. So
yeah. That generation is very cheap as well, secondhand.
Exactly. I've kind of got it at the right time, and I managed to trade in a bunch of my old UK cartridges and consoles, which just aren't compatible over here. There was a place that accepted them. They let me trade them in, and I got the PlayStation 3 and a ton of games for nothing.
Oh,
which worked
wow.
out great. So yeah.
Which one did you get? Was it the original sort of fat triple, or was it
It's,
the later?
it's the fat one, but it's not the very original one with the backward compatibility.
Right, yeah.
They didn't have one of those in. But, you know, for what I was wanting, I'm not too fussed, really.
You can still play PS1 games on it, though. They never took that out. So you can drop a PS1 game in there and it'll still work. But yeah, PS2.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
They never took play with.
They never took that out. So yeah, if you haven't got like a PS1, or you've got a PS1 and you haven't got a TV that can accept like a SCART connection or a composite connection, yeah, you'd struggle to find them in North America.
Oh, I know. You don't miss SCART until you don't have SCART even as an option. It just simplified things. Big fat connector, but it does simplify stuff. Yeah, that doesn't exist here in North America at all. It is a European standard after all.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so yeah, you know, you've got a PS1, you can't hook it up to a modern TV, which is pretty much the standard now. With they don't come with like legacy sockets for that stuff. You can just drop those games into your PS3, and obviously you can play them through HDMI, which is a really cool experience. Some games have glitches, so it's not perfect, but most of them work fine. If you're really clever, you can get the slightly mythical PS1 to PS3 memory card adapter that was very briefly available in the late 2000s, but goes for like quite a lot on eBay now. I never got a hold of that. I should have done. But yeah, it's a great. It's probably my favorite PlayStation, the PS, but especially the fat one that can emulate the PS2. You've got 3 generations in one there, and it's awesome. Although we never got the one that had the motion engine and graphics synthesizer from the PS2 in. We got a weird, slightly later version in 2007, which just has the, I think it has either the emotion, it's got one of the emotion engine chip or the graphics synthesizer, and the other one is software emulated. So you get half of a PS2, basically, which kind of slightly shaves some of the games off the compatibility, unfortunately. But it's still pretty good. And obviously then you got to the Slim where they completely took it out. And the Super Slim, which is the awful plasticky sort of crap final form of the PS3, where there's none.
Get the Slim.
Yeah, it's more reliable probably though, so you can give it that for certain. The fat ones are dying, you know, with the thermal paste. And have you done anything like that on it? Have you tried to replace the caps or try to prolong its life in any way?
Not really, because it's been working great. When that day comes, then I'll do that. But for now, it's one of those. If it's not broke, I'm not going to fix it. Cool.
I mean, it's funny you should mention PS3, because one of the things that I really enjoy doing on those Windows handhelds, like right now, the Legion Go, is playing PS3 games on it on RPCS3, because they run great. I was even literally for shits and giggles, I was playing Grand Theft Auto 5 PS3 version on RPS3 on my Legion Go, and it did dip a little bit when you're driving around under 30 frames when you're driving around in the car traversal, very fast traversal. But you know, I was actually impressed by how well it ran, and that's, you know, a very high level PS3 game running on a handheld gaming PC that's, you know, not much bigger than an original Switch. So that was very cool. And there's tons of...
Rockstar did an incredible job just utilizing every bit of power from the PlayStation 3 for that game.
Yeah, it still looks great to this day.
Yeah, like I knew that having played on the Xbox One version, I was going to be getting a bit of a downgrade experience. But honestly, unless I had them side by side, I can't tell.
No. I think the Xbox One version and the PS4 is just, I think it was just 1080p, and you had the first person perspective you could switch into.
Yeah.
You could play the whole game from that perspective, although, you know, I didn't find that particularly appealing. I prefer the third person view anyway. But yeah, it still looks great to this day, and, you know, it makes you feel really old when you think I was in my 20s when that game came out. In 2013, right at the end of my 20s. But yeah, we still haven't had GTA 6. But yeah, I mean, Stu, just going back to those Windows handhelds, obviously I'm talking about the Legion Go, which is like, you know, got the big 8.8 inch screen, which is great. Probably a criticism you can have with those handhelds is you're dealing with Windows, and there's arguments about whether the ROG Ally handles, you know, using Windows on a handheld console better than the Asus. I think having a trackpad on the Asus controller is a big help with dealing with Windows on a handheld form factor. But to be honest, it's going to be janky whichever way you go. Windows can only be tamed so much when you're dealing with basically what is a consoleized PC. Have you been tempted to check out like the ROG Ally or now the Legion Go?
I still think it's not a very sort of mature market yet, and I think I've said this before, is that every like 2 months is, oh, there's a new one coming out, it does this, oh, there's a new one coming out, it does that, and it's quite funny actually. Recently I'm going away over Christmas, got a long flight. And I'm thinking, when I go away, I want to do a bit of gaming. So I'll probably take my, I've got an M1 MacBook, as I've talked about before. And I was thinking about sort of, I've been investigating games that you can play on that. And there's not a huge amount. And it's just, I don't know, it sort of led me on to do a little bit of sort of cloud gaming on there. Can't really do that on the long flight, obviously. But investigating sort of playing these, I like the idea of them, and I'm getting closer and closer to sort of wanting one, and just maybe sort of play some of the older games, not the newer ones. But then when you're on that small screen, it doesn't matter if you're playing a 2 or 3 year old game or a 2D game and stuff like that. I think there's so much sort of scope that I am thinking about it, but I feel like I'll get a lot of like buyer's remorse. I'll get the Legion Go or the new Steam Deck, and then there'll be something else out, there'll be something else out, there'll be something else out, and there'll almost be I feel like I've sort of missed out. So I want to, I don't know, to be around for a little while, and to maybe a little bit more of a standard.
Yeah, and maybe that wouldn't, there have been rumours of I think they have been prototyping like a gaming handheld optimized version of Windows, that will be like the Steam Deck OS. It's funny you should mention flights, actually, because I went on holiday to Gibraltar a few weeks ago, and I was trying to figure out what's the best way to pass the time. I mean, the plane journey is only 2.5 hours. It's nothing ridiculous. But that's still kind of, nearly at the limits of, certainly the Windows handhelds. But I just took my Steam Deck and my Switch. And actually on the way back, on the flight back, I was playing Pro Evolution Soccer on the Steam Deck, the last sort of, proper version of it, 2021. And with that, I can dial the TDP down to 6 watts from 15. And I started playing it from just as the plane was taking off, and the battery died just as we were landing. So it literally managed to, by doing some of those, dialing down some of those settings, I even put the frame rate down to like 50 frames a second and locked it at that instead of 60. So there's a tiny bit of juice you're saving there as well. Yeah, the TDP was down to like 6 watts, which is just enough to keep it stable at 50. And Bluetooth was off, Wi-Fi was off. And that's a fairly reasonably modern game. It's not a bang, like literally come out last week thing. That you couldn't really dial down much on, but it's, it was still pretty decent. I mean, you would probably know, you wouldn't try and play, like I said, Dead Space Remake or Returnal or something like that on a flight, unless you had power, or a power bank. You would play like a PS4 era game or a 360 era game.
Exactly, but that's what it's absolutely perfect for. And what I've sort of realised, of the last year, a lot of the games I've been playing have been haven't been sort of what are called retro games, but have been slightly older games, and get into those. And I'm just, all this talk about sort of Grand Theft Auto 6. I'm sort of looking on Steam, and Grand Theft Auto 4 is on there for about a £5. So I think, actually, I might go back and get that and see how that looks like on a PC, on a modern day PC, and see how that sort of plays. And something like that on the Steam Deck, I think would be absolutely brilliant, and I think it'll perform amazingly well. Can't say that for sure, but I think where it comes to these handhelds, I'm sort of looking for some sort of ARM chip. So I don't quite know the right terms, but the whole sort of system.
Yeah, like the chips that are typically in mobile phones and laptops that have very efficient power sort of draw.
Exactly, and then like a dedicated sort of screen, and then a dedicated sort of Windows version that's designed for that. Because the way I sort of think about it, what sort of frustrates me is, I really like my Mac. It's a great sort of computer, and the battery lasts forever, and it's got the power in there. If only actually it could just sort of play games.
Well, the thing is,
be good at that.
Yeah, you're right. Those ARM chips are a lot better at mobile devices. But the trouble is, if you're looking at playing Windows-based games, they won't be compatible because the ARM architecture. There have been ARM versions of Windows, but the games are all compiled for like Intel and AMD for x86 and x64.
Exactly.
So there's no, there'll be no games. Unless someone came up with an amazing translation layer like Apple have with Rosetta that can translate, Intel processes into ones that ARM can understand and run. But even that would need some power, would probably end up, negating the performance gains, and the power, consumption would increase. I think it just needs to be kind of, there needs to be better versions of Windows that are more power efficient, and batteries technology needs to get better. I mean, we've already talked about the Steam Deck OLED. The screen means that you're getting gains in battery. If I had an OLED, if it was out then, and I was on that plane flight, I probably would still have about half an hour of battery left when the plane landed.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe more with all the thermal, TDP settings dialed down the way I had. But yeah, no, it's definitely interesting, and you've touched upon already, different ways you can sort of play games, on handhelds. I mean, one is xCloud. I think you
So I wanted to
before,
sort of describe my experience with xCloud, or Game Pass Cloud, whatever it's called. I tried 2 games. Now I'm big into Vampire Survivors. I'm addicted to it. So I was playing that on my Mac through Chrome, and it actually played really well. Though the image was, I'd describe the image as very soft, and that was completely playable, absolutely fine. And I thought, okay, right, let's give Forza a go. I'm enjoying that on my Xbox Series X, but then that was you sort of had to. It was the first time I could really feel sort of a latency issue. So your turn,
you would,
you played. It took me 2 or 3 laps to go around this course to go. Okay, you have to steer slightly earlier, and then I got used to it. But it was still, hold on, this doesn't feel.
It feels very sluggish, and
it felt sluggish, and I was kind of like, oh, is this what cloud online gaming or cloud gaming is like? And I've got a good internet connection. I was in the same room as where the router is, and it was like, okay, this isn't the best experience, and I probably would have got used to it and things like that. But Vampire Survivors look good, Forza less so. Trev, what's your experience with it? Have you done a bit of xCloud or?
Well, it's funny we should talk about sort of cloud streaming of games, because me and Al used to kind of play a lot of the original, or certainly the first commercially available cloud streaming, which was OnLive. So Al,
that's what's been in my head this entire time. Just yes, because that was. They got it right. They got the compression and everything perfect, so that you didn't get that latency. You definitely got the softness of the image.
Oh yeah,
that was absolutely there. But that was a good trade-off for what you were getting, especially at the time when it came out, because it was ahead of everything. I think Sony bought. There was a lot of companies that bought tons of their IP. I believe Sony got a lot of their technology as well for their service. But from the few times I've played with other services, they've never felt as smooth as it's been with OnLive.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I'm surprised you're saying that, because I'm not disputing it, but I would have thought almost like the opposite. Actually, xCloud, Microsoft servers, it's got 10 years of improvements. And I was thinking, God, when you said OnLive, I think, God, that must have been awful. The lag or the latency issues must have been horrendous, but clearly not.
No, I think part of it may also be not just down to just the technology that they were doing was just excellent to the point that they were able to kickstart this whole thing off. But also you've got to think the user base. The user base for these other companies is going to be a lot larger, and so the demands are going to be a lot higher as well.
Yeah.
So I think that certainly would play into it. We were probably quite fortunate that there wasn't as many people on Live. In fact, one of the issues that led them to bankruptcy was the fact that they were falsifying their active numbers by just saying the number of people who had accounts. The actual player base that were actively using the service was a heck of a lot less, and that's what caused them some issues as they got towards the end of things.
Yeah, now you introduced me to OnLive, and you were able to sort of get hold of some of the kit for me, and it was pretty cool. It was like you had the micro console that you plugged into the TV and had an Ethernet out as well, but it could do it over Wi-Fi. There was just an app you could download onto your computer as well.
Yeah, that mini console wasn't much bigger than a phone.
That's right. It was
that kind of size. Yeah,
it was literally a micro console. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise you could do it on your computer with an app that you could download, and then you could just connect up a 360 controller and play the games like that. And it was the range of games was great. I remember playing Warhammer 40k Space Marine and NBA 2K11 and Pro Evo 2011. So we're looking at like 2010, 2011 era was when it kind of had when it was active. So we were in the realm of the Xbox 360 and the PS3. So really 720p was kind of what those games were aiming for in those days anyway. Yeah. So obviously the demands to stream an image like that wasn't as high. And you could dial it down to probably 480p, I think, which didn't look too bad. Obviously there was no 4K TVs or anything like that you were dealing with.
No.
1080p to screens and less.
I mean, part of it could be the problem that I'm playing it on a Mac screen, which has got quite an unusual resolution. So potentially that could have been sort of causing part of the sort of screen softness, though. I'm not an expert on that.
I've had pretty good experiences, but I've had mixed stuff as well. Even sometimes depending on how you're playing it and what kind of device and software you're using. I found sometimes just doing it through a browser, going on to Game Pass through your browser and playing a game through that, you'll get a better, smoother experience than using the actual Game Pass app, which is very strange. I was playing like FIFA 23 on xCloud, and it was actually pretty good and enjoyable to the point where I even forgot that I was streaming it. It was a good, it was kind of perfect scenario situation, though. There was no one else streaming. I wasn't downloading anything or doing anything else. I just had that. Using the internet, so it was kind of best case scenario, but it looked pretty sharp, and there was a slight softness to the image that you can't really get around. But I was playing it on the Xbox One. I was playing the Xbox Series X version of FIFA 23 on the Xbox One via cloud streaming, and it was crap. It was pixelated, it was glitchy, it was smeary, and then I went onto my MacBook Air, opened up Safari. Went on Game Pass on that and played the same game, and it was fine. Could be something to do with like the Wi-Fi hardware in those devices is different, and the processing of the image could be different. But it can vary. I found the browser version tends to be better than any kind of an app.
I mean, that's what I was playing it on Chrome on my MacBook Air, and I wouldn't mind. I think it was the day after I saw in the news they had problems with their Xbox servers and Teams was down for a period of time. So maybe it was just the bad day, but I'm going to certainly sort of give it a go again and maybe try a few sort of other games and.
Yeah, games that are very twitchy, like a racing game. Although I don't think FIFA is that twitchy, so the lag isn't so you don't feel it as much. But you're getting served a 60 frames a second, 1080p image, so it's still the lag isn't going to be really really bad, as long as you've got a decent internet service going into your house or flat. And obviously there's other things. Are you wired in or just wireless? That adds more milliseconds of lag. There's other people streaming stuff and downloading things that will hit your bandwidth. But I've had a pretty decent experience with fairly good London broadband. So your mileage may vary, but it's better than it was a couple of years ago when it was nearly unplayable. no matter what game that I played, where it was just a smeary mess.
Has anyone tried any other services? What was there? Google Stadia and was
I never tried
GeForce
that.
Now and
Al, have you tried it? And anything in Canada that's like Game Pass, for example, or anything?
Only at friends' places, not anything on my own setup.
Yeah. It's still got a ways to go, but I mean, obviously, I think xCloud is probably the best one at the moment. I mean,
right?
Google Stadia's gone now, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Has it actually been shut down now, or is it still in its last few weeks or something?
I think it was shut down a little while ago. I think, and
I have tried PS Now, and that was okay. Well, PS Now was okay. To be honest, probably about the same as xCloud, but I haven't tried that for a year or two. The last time I got PS Now was just I literally paid for a month just to play Last of Us Part 2. And I completed Last of Us Part 2 and didn't renew my subscription. So, an xCloud, not xCloud, I think PS Now is part of that. I think a particular tier of it. I don't think you get it on the cheapest one. I could be wrong. It's a bit of a mess now.
I get a bit confused with all their memberships and stuff.
Yeah, but it's pretty good. I even tried some Xbox 360 games you can play on there, like Dead Space and Oblivion and things like that. And it'll pick up your save from an actual native console that you might have played that on. But yeah, really, given the choice, it's quite good on a lot. I've played a fair bit of xCloud on the Legion Go already because I could dial the TDP down to the minimum because it's just playing a video effectively. It doesn't need any graphics hardware to do anything apart from decompress the video. So you can, and then you've got the battery that will last you 4 or 5 hours. Just streaming games. That's a good, but that's only really realistic at home. I'm sure you could probably tether to a 5G phone, but then unless you've got unlimited data plan.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. But
it probably would be that great. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's our experiences with xClouds, but. Another thing I think, Stu, again, that you've been you wanted to discuss as well was the latest Call of Duty. Now, I haven't played it. I haven't played a Call of Duty in a while.
I haven't played it. It's just sort of talking about, so I don't want to dwell on it too much, but they've sort of changed the way. I know, Trev, you've always sort of talked about, and I always like the sort of the campaigns. They're sort of 5 to 6 hours long. Hollywood movie, lots of explosions. And things like that, and I always think that they're good fun. I think I'll describe them as good fun, sort of popcorn fun. But
just
the latest campaign,
kind of action schlock kind of thing.
Exactly. But the latest campaign is almost like they put you in that multiplayer world and go off and do lots of things within the multiplayer world.
They've used like the Call of Duty Warzone as the sort of the engine to power segments of the campaign. So the things like go over there and defend that base for 5 minutes, then go over there and do something for 10. I don't know. It's stuff like that. As I said, I haven't played it, but I'm almost a little bit disappointed because I always quite like the Call of Duty campaigns, and they're always really good fun, and thinking, actually I hope this is just going to be like a one-off, and then they're going to go back to doing these Hollywood blockbuster style sort of stories. Al, do you are you into Call of Duty? Have you played any of them? Would you be into the new one?
Yeah, I used to play quite a lot of them. So I played all the original first 3, where it's all set during World War II and so on. I then played Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2, and that's when I kind of stopped really. Not due to not liking the franchise. I love the franchise, and to your point, Stuart, with the Hollywood-esqueness of it, that's kind of what I enjoyed. Because I'm not interested in going to war. I don't want that realistic an experience. Hollywood-esque experience, however, absolutely all for. But I ended up not having the right console platforms to be able to play any of the newer ones after that. But it's certainly one of those things where if you sit me down in front of a console and it's got the latest one, I would absolutely love to see what it's like now, because I imagine there's a lot of of improvements from over the years.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one with Modern Warfare 3, isn't it? Is the new one? I think we actually know what you said the name, but initially it was going to just be DLC for the new Modern Warfare 2. Then they said no, it's going to be a separate game, and apparently the dev cycle was really short. I don't think they got the 3 years that they normally get to make a Call of Duty. I think it was probably like a year or something insane like that, or 18 months, and it suffered because of it. But I'm not sure Call of Duty is. I mean, is it still like the powerhouse? I mean, it is obviously a big, huge franchise, but I feel like it's on a downward trend at the moment, really. I feel like, the sort of looter shooters and things like that have kind of taken over from it in the last sort of 5 or 6 years.
I don't know what the reputation is, but I know that it certainly has a reputation online. Especially with, kind of... I think just like for online tournaments and stuff, it's very much its own genre. To some degree, I don't know if that's fair to say, but I know that there's definitely it's very polarizing. There's people who are absolute fans of Call of Duty, and there's people who seem to be dead set against it. From what I can tell from the little bits I've seen online.
I mean, I've always liked the multiplayer, and I've always thought that's very good. That's great fun to play, but I think it's everything that comes in. Involved with that, and the times I played that, and it's just okay. Let's just block everyone else talking, because you get someone screaming, and it's just the whole sort of internet meme is that you'll get shot and beaten by a 13-year-old, and that's absolutely true. You will do, because they play it so much longer, and then you get them screaming in your ear, and it makes actually for not a great experience. Or actually, if you want to go on there and argue with some 14-year-old American, then crack on. It's absolutely perfect. And but from that point of view, I've always enjoyed sort of the multiplayer, and I don't think I'm getting negative feedback about sort of the multiplayer from sort of what I'm hearing. It is a little bit of a greatest hits, with a lot of the remade maps from older games and things like that are included. So from that point of view, I think, Trev, you hit the nail on the head. And I want to go back to sort of potentially sort of COVID, really. And I
don't want to go back to COVID.
No, well, COVID wasn't too bad. Anyway, moving on.
One final thing, though, I think that what we need really is just to limit multiplayer to just your own time zone, so that we, those of us who are getting on a bit, can play after the younger teenagers have all gone to bed.
Yeah.
That would just even the playing field a little bit.
Yeah, we don't have like the 50,000 hours a week that they can dedicate to running around.
So when it's past their bedtime, we can start playing, and then we'll actually have a chance.
No, that's a good idea.
I've never been a massive fan of it. I mean, I feel like it's on a downward trend at the moment. I think Warzone probably hasn't been as big as they thought. Oh, we'll make a battle royale version of Call of Duty, and that will just kill all the other battle royale things. But I don't think that's really happened. I think it's found a little niche, and Call of Duty fans play it. I know there's certainly still people around that the only video game they really play is Call of Duty. Much like the only people that only play like EA Sports FC. And don't play anything else really. And they just get, they'll get a PS5 and they'll just play the Call of Duty with their mates. And then when the next one comes out, they'll get that and they'll play it again. But yeah, I certainly don't think. What's that, hell?
It's cheaper to do it that way.
Well, yeah, you can save a hell of a lot of money. Certainly if you get it in a bundle as well.
Yeah,
which they always do, with a console. But I mean, my favourites are like Ghosts and like Advanced Warfare, which are from like sort of the early PS4 and Xbox One era, where the campaigns were kind of almost treated like with equal kind of concern by the developers, whereas now it's kind of just a tacked on sort of thing that they have to do to sort of maybe. I can't imagine there's many people that just buy it just for the campaign these days. I mean, I probably would, because I really enjoy the campaigns that I have played. But I
think spending £60 on a a 3 to 4 hour campaign, I think that's not money well spent. And
Not really, no.
no.
I remember when like Black Ops Declassified came out for the Vita, and everyone was really excited about it because it was, oh my god, a proper handheld Call of Duty, and it was horrible, wasn't it? It was like 2 hours long, and it was developed in like the team made it in 4 months or something crazy, and it was horrible. It's kind of shades of that, and you always got these humongous download sizes, like it's like 120 gig or something, isn't it? Just to download like an update or something, a day one update. I'm sure it will sell loads. Most, I would say, probably most people that buy the game don't care about the campaign, so it might survive having a slightly janky campaign where they've ripped stuff from Warzone and try to sort of rejig it into a single player campaign. But yeah, it's probably not something I'll be bothered about getting. I had a bit of a period where I tried to run through all of the Call of Duty campaigns, and that stalled a little bit. I might eventually, decide I want to go back and do that, but I'm not. Are you guys buying the latest one?
I probably won't. I can't imagine. Maybe it's in a sale in about 6 months' time. But I want to sort of, talking about sort of good single player stories. GTA 6.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and that's. I listened to the Digital Foundry, and they made a point that on the PlayStation 2 there was 3 GTA games. On the Xbox 360, PS3 generation, there was 2 360 game. Call it Grand Theft Auto
Jesus
games.
Christ,
there you go. Call of Duty games. There was loads, but so 2 on that. Then on the Xbox One, PS4, there were none, and now we're 3 years into the next generation, and they've made an announcement that they are going to make an announcement about Grand Theft Auto 6. That's what bigger deal is. They've had to make an announcement that they're gonna tell you something about it.
Yeah,
I'm December.
I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be interesting if they do announce a PC version simultaneous with the consoles, which I don't think they will. We got Grand Theft Auto 5 like a couple of years after, about a year and a half.
I think they will. And
possibly,
because someone made the point, I think it was Richard Ledbetter on Digital Foundry. I always talking about him.
You love that guy.
I do. Honestly, that guy is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he made the point that they make so much money out of all the points, the cards, the
online,
the online, that it's almost like let's just leave billions of pounds on the table, or hundreds of millions of pounds on the table, and let's not go for that. But I'd like to see it on the PC as well, but I'll probably play it on the Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, I would love it if they did. I mean, I don't know how big of a market the PC versions are for them. I'm sure it's still big, but I don't think it'll be as big as a PS5 and the Xbox combined. No. It'd be interesting if there's going to be a Switch 2 version. Whether that's, I mean, obviously, I don't think they'll be able to shoehorn that onto the current Switch, and they probably won't want to anyways. It's going to be out soon. The Switch 2 will be, next year at some time. Be interesting if they do port it over to the Switch 2. I just
want to point out, Nintendo have not announced or confirmed a Switch 2.
Yeah. Activision said to a court that they've been briefed on the Switch 2. Under oath,
but
Nintendo said no, they're lying.
have not announced anything, so I don't think we should talk about Switch 2.
Or for fear of angering Nintendo, yeah,
exactly.
Something we need to be worried about. That'll be interesting if they do, because obviously the Switch never got. Weirdly, they never ported GTA 5 to the Switch, which would have been great. I'm sure it would have ran on it. They did Red Dead Redemption. So I'm sure they could have done that. I don't really know why they never did that, which is interesting. There have been Grand Theft Auto games on Nintendo platforms, mainly on the handhelds, weirdly enough. Although we did get the Grand Theft Auto sort of trilogy, the awful like remasters that came out.
Terrible.
So you can play Grand Theft Auto on the Switch, but we never got 5, so that'll be interesting. But to be honest, I mean, I would really want to play it. They always have really amazing single player campaigns, just exploring the worlds that you get. It's great fun listening to the stations and the great music they always have. That will launch a million YouTube comments of some famous 80s pop song that we knew when we were growing up, but some kid will put, oh, that's that song that was from Grand Theft Auto in the comments on the YouTube video of that song. So we'll have loads more of that in the future with whatever they do.
Let's do some guessing. What city is it going to be based in?
I think people have are nearly expecting it to be in Vice City, aren't they? But I think more the era is going to be more interesting because they kind of abandoned doing different time periods after San Andreas. Grand Theft Auto 4 was just, the year the game, 2008, I think, the year the game came out. GTA 5 was 2013. So, they can't, I don't think they want to go back to the 80s that's been done already in Vice City. So maybe it would just be, current day. Maybe it's more interesting to do current day because they like to do a lot of satire and parody and like take the mick out of tropes and trends and things of what's going on in the world. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that if they did the 80s, it's retreading old stuff. But we are now at a point where the 90s was 30 years ago, and 30 years tends to be kind of the sweet spot for stuff.
No,
I know. But I think that it would be kind of cool to actually have it set in the 90s. And I think that something like Vice City that could still work even for that. As you're kind of, just coming out of that kind of 80s vibe, and so on. I think that would certainly work as an aesthetic if that's the way that they go. Again, I'm more inclined to think that they're just going to set it present day. I think that's just easier. But I would be down for a 90s one.
Yeah, so would I. I mean, they did, I guess, San Andreas took place in the early 90s, which is interesting because the game came out, was it 2005 or 4? So the 90s weren't that long ago at that point in time. So
I don't know. I'd like to see it in the 1970s in New York.
Liberty City.
Yeah, so Liberty City in the 1970s. So you're going round, and I just think that'd be a great soundtrack. It can take loads of different information, output from all these different films or influence from all these different films from the 70s, and I think that'll be really good.
Yeah, that would be a pretty cool era. Probably it doesn't look like it. No, I mean, my one hope is, GTA Online is probably the reason why we haven't had, possibly why we haven't had just another Grand Theft Auto like GTA 6 before now, and also why there wasn't any single player DLC like we got for 4, like the Lost and the Damned and the Band of Daytona.
I'm not sure that's the case. I think that it's a means to get to GTA 6. When you look at just how mammoth a game GTA 4 was, and then they completely blew those limits out of the water when it came to GTA 5. If they're trying to keep one-upping things, that is a lot of work that they have to do for something like GTA 6. So one, I'm not surprised it's taken this long. But two, that's where the big cash cow is. Like you've kind of alluded to already, the online is where they've been able to make a lot of money. And I think that they really had to push that to get more cash flow to keep the development up for GTA 6. And this could also be why it's not been ported to the Switch, because the amount of effort that you're putting in, if your resources are divided between developing a new game and keeping your existing IP up and running and to still be profitable, the amount of work that they'd have to put in to port it to the Switch, are they going to get enough return from that? Is the player base, especially for the age range that it's suitable for, are they going to get enough back versus just putting in a little bit more work into the online service and then reaping even more money that way? And I think priority-wise, when you do have to have development split, that's my guess as to what happened.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. I mean, at the same time, it almost probably would have made sense as well if they had made a Switch version, because there's like 133 million Nintendo Switches that, but I guess they have brought out games on it. Like I said, Red Dead Redemption, you can get on the Switch, you can get the GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition thing. So they have tapped into that money. But that would be interesting. Also, I hope, with that, what you were saying, Al, with the online element being going on for so long, and potentially drawing development away from single player DLC. I hope we do get maybe some kind of single player DLC
Oh,
with
absolutely. Yeah.
6. And we might not. They might just do it. There'll be an online element to it, of course, and that'll be it for 10 years. And these games take so long to develop now. Like I said, it's it's going to be 10 years, more 11 years since we had the previous GTA. There's a similar thing with the Elder Scrolls now. It's going to be 15 years, between Elder Scrolls 5 and 6 potentially. So these games are just insanely difficult to make and take so much time to do.
Trev, that's something that I was so disappointed there was never a Grand Theft Auto 5 sort of DLC, because I would have, if each one of those came out at 20 quid, I would have bought episode after episode after episode of that, because Lost and Damned, Ballad of the Gay Tony, they were bigger and there was more content than so many other full price games, and I was really I thought it was a great world, and I know they've done the online, and that sort of made them sort of loads of money, and I haven't got anything problems against that, and loads of people enjoyed playing it, but there was almost sort of little story elements within that, with the what was it, the sort of the bank heists and stuff you could do. But I would have bought episode after episode of DLC. And if some came out tomorrow, I'll be, where do I buy it? Sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting from that point of view. If we're going to get that, hopefully we will. I'm not holding out hope, though. The technology-wise, well, I mean, there's a possibility it might still be cross-gen with the PS4 and the Xbox One.
No, it can't be.
Yeah, I think it'll be exclusive to current gen. But that means, we could potentially see. I mean, it'd be difficult to see. It'll probably be 30 frames a second locked, because an open world game with, will be difficult to do, with the hardware that's in the PS5 and the series consoles. But to have like ray tracing on it, which we've never seen in a Grand Theft Auto before. I don't think obviously 5 did come out on the PS5. I don't think they added in like anything like that. I think they just boosted up the resolution again of the original assets. Which is kind of crazy when you think the Grand Theft Auto 5 came out on the PS3, 4, and 5. The technology will be amazing to see in action when we see it.
Yeah, they've definitely got their money's worth from their development time, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, I haven't got a PS5 or an Xbox Series console yet, so it might be, again, if there is no PC version forthcoming for a couple of years, then potentially that might be what tempt me to, I'm sure there'll be a bundle like there was with 5. I think the PS5 got a Grand Theft Auto 5 bundle. I don't think the 360 did, weirdly. But there was console bundles, certainly for the PS3. I remember seeing them all over the place. And actually the PS4, I think, had Grand Theft Auto 5 bundles. I mean, that would be great to get, what is laughably called maybe the PS5 Slim. Well, there was a Series S. Obviously, you might not run the game as well as like a PS5, but it's very cheap. A bundle for that. That might be tempting. I might grab a Series S, because that will usurp my Xbox One X. I might actually get one of the new consoles at that point, just to play it, because I don't really want to wait 2 years for a PC version. And even if they did release a PC version, my PC gaming is really restricted to those handhelds. So I don't think that would run on a Steam Deck. It would run like a slideshow, and probably not a Legion Go either. It'd be a couple of, you need the next gen chips, I think, to run those games on like a handheld PC. I could be wrong. You can run Ratchet and Clank, the latest one on PS5 on a Steam Deck. So maybe, but I'm not going to hold out much hope. And any final thoughts on GTA 6, what we might be seeing next month?
Not in terms of what we'd be seeing, but certainly, I mean, when we talk about getting a console and there's always like a killer app, that would be GTA 6, like the Spider-Man 2 game that's out from Insomniac. That is one of those ones which is like, that was the thing that would lean me towards a PlayStation over an Xbox if I was to get a console.
Yeah.
With that and GTA 6 coming out, if GTA 6 kind of meets kind of whatever is floating in my head as my expectations, that's probably the thing that's going to make me just go, okay, there we go, sold.
Yeah, and like I said, you'll probably be able to get a Series X bundle, and that'll be like, I mean, that console over here is only about, is it £250, I think? So under £300, you could make the upgrade.
Yeah, it's the one thing that would maybe pull the trigger on a new current gen console, which I don't really have right now. But
same here.
Yeah, because it's that big of a deal. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest, not the biggest, but it's certainly one of the biggest franchises in, of all of gaming.
Could be the biggest game launch of all time, I think, when it does actually release on that day.
100%. And
yeah,
from my point of view, what I want to see is I don't want to see a 30-second trailer of a drone going around a city, and then at the end it says out 2025. I'll be a little bit disappointed. I think I want to see a good sort of half an hour of this is what's going on, this is what we're planning, and then give some real sort of meat on the bones in the presentation. And the fact that they're announcing a month in advance that they're going to do a big announcement, I would suggest it's going to be a big sort of showcase rather than some little sort of minute-long trailer.
I think the other thing as well is that they're wanting to build up hype so that the hype is already there when they drop it. And they did have a leak in September. So this is also like, this is going to be coming out and this is going to be legit. There's not going to be any like, is this real? Is this not? Like, we're letting you know now when to expect it. So
yeah. I mean, they normally do a pretty good cinematic trailer. They did that with 5 when it came out. I mean, I'm not sure we want like Peter Moore to reveal a tattoo with Grand Theft Auto 6 on it, which happened with 4 back in 2007 or beginning of 2008. That'll be a bit underwhelming, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be huge. I think we're all going to get it, whether we have to get a console or whether we can sort of get a PC version, maybe some kind of a Switch 2 version. But yeah, more than likely, Stu, you're okay. You've got a PS5 and an Xbox Series, and
I've got
we'll have to grab those.
Just the Xbox.
You got the Xbox with you, yeah. So
not PS5.
We'll have to grab one of those, me and Alan, to get a chance to play it. But really excited for it. It's going to be huge. But that's basically it for today's episode. Stu, where can you find us on the interwebs?
We are everywhere. So you can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Search Console Shock. You can find us on YouTube. Search Console Shock, and Twitter and Facebook. We're pretty much everywhere. So just search Console Shock and send us a message.
You'll find us, yeah. And Al, where can we find your interweb stuff?
I'm often playing Minecraft with a bit of a Stargate twist over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Alistair McFly. And obviously, you and I, Trev, we both do our Star Trek podcast, Long Range Sensors, which you can find at longrangesensors.com.
Yeah, check it out if you're into Star Trek as well, which I'm sure some of you might be, if you're weirdos like me and Al. I'm sure you're a weirdo as well, actually. You don't get away with it. There you go. You can admit it yourself. Well, thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will catch you in the next one. Take care.
Take it easy, guys.